Okay, all right, so I'm back again now, and now what we're gonna do is we're gonna do some practice problems, okay? I'm not gonna do a whole bunch of them, I'm just gonna do a couple of them. So let's look at the first one up here. It says write an expression for each of these statements. So here, these are expressions, so they do not have an equal sign, okay? So the first one says the difference of the money in the bank at the beginning of the year and the amount withdrawn during the year, okay? So we don't have any numbers here at all. We notice that we do have the difference, which means subtraction, of the money in the bank at the beginning of the year and the amount withdrawn during the year, okay? So basically, what we're gonna say is that I'm just gonna have B stand for beginning of the year. So that's what you started off with. So number one, I'm just gonna say B minus, I'm just gonna say B minus W, okay? And what W means is the amount that you withdrawn throughout the year, okay? And that's really it, okay? Two says the average of Scott's grades on 5 quizzes, okay? So question number 2, the average of Scott's grades on 5 quizzes. So whenever you take an average, you just adding up all of the things that you have divided by the number of things that you do have, okay? So he took 5 quizzes. So let's say he took quiz A, and then he also has quiz B, quiz C, quiz D, and then quiz E, okay? So we're gonna add up all of these and then divide by 5. And remember, A, B, C just means the quiz that he did, okay? So A can be the first quiz, B can be the second quiz, C can be the third quiz, D can be the 4th one, and then E can be the 5th one, okay? And that's it for that one. All right. Number 3, it says Laura's pay for 1 week if she worked 8 hours at her regular rate and then 3 hours of overtime at 1.5 times her regular rate, okay? So we don't know how many, we don't know what her regular rate is, but we know that she worked 8 hours at that rate. So I'm gonna say 8 times R, okay? And then we're gonna say plus, okay, because she's also worked 3 hours of overtime, so that's an additional amount of time, right? So plus 3 hours of 1.5 times her regular rate. So we're going to say multiply 1.5 times her regular rate. Again, we don't know what her regular rate is, though, okay? So if we did that, we can still multiply these things right here, okay? Matter of fact, I got my calculator right here. So let me bring this out. So if I have, let me just put that right there. Jesus, come on now. 3 times 1.5, of course that's gonna be 4.5, okay? So we can rewrite this over again. This is gonna be 8R plus 4.5R. And then now, since both of these are the same variables, we can add these two things together. So 8R plus 4.5R is going to be 12.5R, okay? So that's what we have for that. All right. Number 4, the amount of money in a savings account at the end of the year if P dollars were deposited at the beginning of the year, and that's not a 1%, that's an L percent or an I percent. Looks like I percent. Yeah, I'm gonna say I percent interest was earned on the account, okay? So these ones are pretty tricky because they involve percentages, but it's okay. So again, remember, this is an expression. We don't have any equations here. So you put P amount of money into the bank account. So you start off with P at the beginning of the year, and then it grows at an interest rate, okay? So, I'm sorry. Let me just read this again. The amount of money in the savings account at the end of the year, if P dollars were deposited at the beginning of the year and I percent of interest was earned on the account. Okay, so you got the initial amount that you have plus P times the I% amount of interest that was also earned on the account throughout the year as well, okay? So again, the interest is there because you have interest on top of the principal amount. So you got your principal that you initially deposited plus the interest that was gained on that principal amount too as well, okay? And that's it. That's something you can do because everything's all variables, all right? Now, let's move on to writing an equation, okay? So, let's see, you can do this one. It says the balance on, I think it's Bryna's account at the credit union was $3,155. After she made a withdrawal to pay for car repairs, her new balance was $2,855, okay? How much did Bryna withdraw from her account? So with this one, let me just fold this one up. Okay, so she started out with $3,155, okay? After she made a withdrawal, which means that she's taking away an amount, but we don't know the amount that she took away, so I'm gonna say minus W. We notice that her new balance, so this is gonna be equal sign, was equal to $2,855. And that's it. That's how you write that equation, okay? We're not trying to solve it. We're just going to just write them out, okay? All right, now, the next one. It says, when Tony turned 9 years old, he received an allowance of $4 each week. His parents increased his allowance by 75 cents a week each birthday. What was Tony's allowance when he turned 12? Okay. So when Tony was 9 years old, he received an allowance of $4 each week. His parents increased his allowance to 75 cents each week. 75 cents a week each birthday. What was Tony's? Oh, let's see. That wasn't the one I wanted to do. I can do that one, but that's not the one because I remember I said I only want to do a few of them. I'm sorry. And I felt like this one right here would have been the more complicated one. A chemistry researcher has a container filled with 100 milliliters of hydrochloric acid. If the researcher does a series of experiments that each use 4 milliliters of hydrochloric acid, how much of the acid is left? So we know that initially you're going to use, or you have in a container that's filled with 100 milliliters of some substance, okay? The substance called hydrochloric acid. The researcher is going to do a series of experiments that each use 4 milliliters of that hydrochloric acid. We don't know how many series he's going to do, but we do know he's going to use 4 milliliters each time. And then we're still going to have some things left as well, okay? So let's say you have some type of substance. This is number 5 right here, right? And then I'm doing number 7 right now. So you're doing some type of experiment, okay? Let's call it A. Okay. Or you have some type of substance, okay? And you start off with 100 milliliters. So the substance equals 100 milliliters. And then you are going to do a series of experiments that each use 4 milliliters of that particular substance. So it's going to be minus 4, and then we're going to say E, okay? Because you do a whole different experiment. And then how much is left? Well, how much is left is going to be A. Okay, that's the amount that's going to be left over. So it's going to be 100 minus 4E equals A. All right. Yeah, this video is kind of long, so I'm gonna just stop right here and I'm gonna send this to you. Now, what I want you to do before I stop it is I want you to try to do these 2 particular problems down here. Hopefully you can see them. Okay. I want you to do these 2 particular problems down here, and then I want you to tell me what the answers will be, okay? And that's it. Holla at you later.